to a USDA report by the Economic Research Service in August of 2009, foodborne illness accounts for 1 in every 100 U.S. hospitalizations and 1 in every 500 U.S. deaths. Foodborne illness is a serious problem in the United States and worldwide. It has been for some time. We have the best technology and the best medicine we've ever had, and we still have rampant foodborne illness with no prevention in place. There are many things you as a consumer can do to help with the issue of foodborne illness. But before we address what we as consumers can do, we will look to the problem itself and to how we got there. In the CDC's report on April 13th of 2011, they estimated that this year, 1 in 6 Americans will get sick, 128,000 will be hospitalized, and 3,000 will die from a foodborne illness. That's 1 in 6 Americans being affected by foodborne illness. Of course, children and the elderly are the most vulnerable and the most affected. They are those that we can speak up for. Foodborne illness is not being abated and is not being resolved. Just this month in Germany, 35 people died from an E. coli outbreak. 35 in less than a month. Fox News reported on this on June 13th of 2011, quoting Nellie Brom of the Federal Institute of Risk Assessment as saying that this wave of HUS, which is a complication of E. coli, is the most significant in the world to date. The most significant. We have the best technology, we have the best medicine, and we also have the most significant outbreak of E. coli, the most harmful that we have seen. Now we look to the cause of the problem. How did we get here? How did we get to such rampant foodborne illness with all of this medicine and technology in place? We look to the food production process. We look to the cattle being fed corn instead of grass. The cattle are used to grass. That's what they've evolved to eat, and that's what their stomach digests properly. They are given corn because it is cheaper. It also builds up in their stomach and creates a bacteria. Michael Pollan, author of best-selling health books and professor at Berkeley, stated in a Food Inc. documentary released on June 4th of 2009 that 5 days of grass fed to the cattle would get rid of 80% of the E. coli in their gut. 80% would be gone in 5 days. Also, the conditions where the cattle are raised and other animals are raised is very dirty. They stand in their manure all day. They spread their bacteria to all the other cattle. It gets in the runoff that gets into streams and rivers and eventually to all of the other crops. You could cut this off of the head at the cattle themselves. Another cause of the problem of foodborne illness is the few number of slaughterhouses. Eric Schlosser, author of Fast Food Nation, said in the Food Inc. documentary released on June 4th of 2009 that we only have 13 slaughterhouses left in the United States. There is meat from thousands of cows in one hamburger. All this does is increase the risk of a person eating a hamburger contaminated with some form of bacteria or foodborne illness. We used to have thousands of slaughterhouses, which created less of a spread and less of a chance of disease. Another problem is antibiotics. You would think antibiotics would help prevent this disease. Instead, in twofold ways, it prevents it. Foodborne Illness Organization reported on December of 2010 that 40% of antibiotics produced in the world are given to animals. 80% of that is not to prevent or to treat disease, but instead to promote rapid growth. They are given the antibiotics to be bigger, faster, not to prevent disease. This causes problems for humans and for the disease itself. It makes the bacteria resistant to antibiotics, so that when humans or other animals get that disease, it cannot be treated with antibiotics. It's resistant to it, and new ways to treat it must be found. It also makes animals and humans vulnerable to more disease. they have antibiotic buildup in their systems, which makes them more vulnerable to bacteria and to attacks. All these things are issues that could be resolved, that could be addressed, that could be fixed, and that could prevent foodborne illness. We next look to what you can do as a consumer. You are not the head of a corporation or in the food industry. You are not a CEO of Tyson or any other meat packing industry, but you are a consumer, and you have a voice, and you have power. If you see this as a major issue, speak up. Demand that your food is safe. Demand from the producer. Cause them to meet your demand. That is their job, to supply what the consumer will buy. Demand safe food. Read your labels and see what is in your food. See how it is processed. See how it gets to you. Is it a food item that is not processed safely? Change it. Demand it. If you don't see this as that big a problem, you're on the fence, you aren't quite sure, research. Find out for yourself. Decide. Be decisive. Is it an issue that needs resolved or not? You make that decision. If you don't see this as a problem at all, I ask only that you consider it. That you think on the fact that 1 in 6 Americans are affected by foodborne illness. 1 in 6. That 1 in 6 affects you. A family member or a friend. It affects you. To conclude, the problem of foodborne illness is rampant and can be prevented. It is caused by many things, from feeding cattle corn instead of grass, from the dirty conditions, the antibiotics that are given to them not to prevent but to increase their growth, and to the few number of slaughterhouses left in the United States. All these things can be prevented, can be changed. We can change it. We know that cheeseburgers and other fast food items are cheaper than a head of lettuce. Are we willing to pay more for them? What price is too high? As the Foodborne Illness Organization put it in December of 2010, is the price of a 4-year-old being told she needs a kidney transplant before she's 15 too high? Or a healthy 6-year-old losing her pancreas and needing 40 pills a day to eat? Or a 2-year-old dying? Or a college freshman losing her hair and told her kidneys could not survive pregnancy? Or what is the price that we're willing to pay? What is that price? What is your price?